Hi, welcome to your shipper update. I'm Michael Vincent. He's Anthony Smith. It's Thursday. I've got tons of energy. I know you do because you've got
initial jobs claims. Every single Thursday, we have to talk about it, and we got the latest numbers here.
Great.
Michael Vincent, I'm always suspicious of these numbers. Anyway, we gotta jump into it. And so last week, we saw a downward movement. This week, we saw a little bit of sideways movement. So we saw another 353,000 individuals file for initial jobs claims. So it's not the sudden drop off that we wanted, but it is a good sign. I mean, I'd rather have things move sideways than popping up and spiking all over again.
Right now, it seems like we're in danger of maybe going really the wrong way.
Exactly.
Which would be it spiking. So if it doesn't spike, that's kind of good news right now. At least with the sentiment that's kind of in the air. Right?
That's right. And so last week's numbers, they got revised. I think it was an upward movement to 349,000. So a slight edge up, but again, this is more of a sideways movement. I mean, a couple thousand, and I know each one of those thousands are really significant people.
Each one person is significant, but in a matter of the economy going, it's really not that significant.
Exactly. So that sideways movement, it could even be a rounding error. Of course, we're still seeing are talking about how some of those machineries and those counting systems could be a little bit off, but this is one of those things where we really care about because, of course, it's going to be an indication of how strong these consumers are. That's going to feed into these shippers, these producers of goods, because they're going to be able to sell and make stuff. And so you want a strong consumer economy to be able to make those goods and to buy those goods. And so this is going to be one of those areas that, of course, we're going to watch every single Thursday. It comes out. You don't have to wait for the release. We'll talk about it here on FreightWaves now, but this is the one that I always look for every Thursday morning. The next chart we have up here is going to be more around, of course, my other favorite thing, flatbed. Michael Vincent, I can't go a segment without talking about flatbed.
Anthony Smith.
I love it. And we have, of course, non-defense capital goods new orders on a year-over-year basis. And so one of the things that we were talking about previously was we've likely hit a peak. And if there's going to be a downward movement, it's not going to be anything overt or something to be completely, up in the air about. So
like the economy's not shutting down.
It's not shutting down. And so that's exactly what we saw with non-defense capital goods. As we expected, a slight downward movement for overall orders. And so we saw overall orders go down by 0.1%. Not a huge drop off or anything like that, but it is a downward movement, and it kind of interrupts that persistent upward movement that we were seeing for the month-to-month movement. We have year-over-year here, which correlates really nicely with what we're seeing in flatbed. And overall, we are still seeing, let me pull this number up here, for non-defense capital goods new orders is still up 1.8%, excluding aircraft. That's going to take that number up to 4.5%. So we're still humming along. They're still
humming along nicely. But you saw this coming, this kind of slight drop coming. One of the reasons was you're watching FreightWaves.
Watching FreightWaves, and so that was why it wasn't too much of a surprise of like, hey, there's some downward
You already saw downward pressure on FreightWaves, so you knew the number was not, it wasn't going to be up, that's for certain, after looking at FreightWaves.
Exactly. And so that expectation is that it's still going to moderate, but at this higher level than it was last year. Doesn't mean that there's going to be this sudden drop off. There are tons of new orders still coming through. There's still a lot of backlogs happening right now.
Yeah, we got to keep talking about the backlogs. Right?
Yeah, and even if there was a sudden shutdown, or I wouldn't say shutdown, but a slowdown in manufacturing. There's still so much more production to be had. So
sure, and you still have to go steal your freight out of warehouses at O'Hare.
Exactly.
Right, so.
I mean, you got to do what you got to do out there. So.
You got to do what you got to do, man.
But looking at this number is still encouraging. Like you said, we're going to keep an eye on FreightWaves to see what's happening, of course, within construction, but manufacturing, that's definitely been the hot area right now. One of the areas that we do expect to kind of ease in 2022. I think a lot of consumer metrics are going to ease throughout 2022 as well, but there's no signs of overt decline or year-over-year sudden contraction or recessionary trends. But I think a return to maybe where we were or where we should be outside of all these sudden fluctuations. Of course, there's going to be an enormous amount of volume still. There's going to still be industries that are changed forever or for the foreseeable future. But when we're looking at the momentum of areas, the momentum of manufacturing, the momentum behind the consumer, it's going to ease. And that easing shouldn't be misconstrued for an utter slowdown or, something's wrong.
The economy's not failing.
It's
just been on hyperdrive for so long. You got to come off a ludicrous speed and just come down to light speed, right?
Exactly.
Right, yeah. Excellent stuff. Thank you so much, Anthony.